Hi guys, how's it going? Good morning everyone. Alright, so we're going to talk about ASO. Who is familiar about App Store optimization? Raise your hand, no questions. 2, 3, 4, not many. I hope more of you do and you're shy, you didn't understand my question. Anyway, so this is us. We were founded back in 2013. We released to date about 700 apps and we achieved over 250 million organic downloads. Now, these are the results I just told you just now, but the truth is when we start working at Lab Cave, our first game was a flop. No one downloaded the game, literally no one. So we had to come up with ways to actually get people to download our game, and that's where our ASO expertise comes in place. So since then, I'm glad to say that we are doing better. You can see here the graph, how it fluctuates. You can see the pointer? No, I zoom in. So you can see how it fluctuates a lot. This is because there are algorithm changes, both in Google Play and the App Store. These are really hard to account for, and every single developer are playing the cat and mouse game. So the only thing you can do is react to changes. It's really hard to know exactly how things are going to be. That being said, there are some trends that we're going to discuss today for you guys to kind of like figure out what both Apple and Google Play are looking for when you develop a game. Now, before I move on, I'm going to just make sure we're all on the same page because not many of you raise your hands. But ASO, as we understand it on Lab Cave, it's about improving as much as you can the number of organic installs that your game has. This is thanks to two different things. The first one is improving the visibility in the App Store. That is how likely it is for someone to go on the App Store page, look for a keyword, search, and then finding your game, and then they just download it. And that's the second part, which is optimizing the visit to install rate. Once I got the user attention, how likely is for them to actually say, oh, this game is interesting because I like the icon, I like the screen, I'm going to tap on download. That's what we call about improving the conversion rate. Now, this is thanks to the combination of two factors, which is the off metadata and the on metadata. You will see that I highlighted this one in purple. There's a reason for that, and we will cover this in a few more slides. But on metadata, you got to understand that iOS and Google have different metrics to account for. For instance, the description on Google Play, the long description is really important on Google Play because it's about how many keywords you have and how many times it's being repeated, the keyword relevancy. Whereas on iOS, the long description doesn't matter whatsoever. You don't have to worry about it. But today I'm going to focus more about the off metadata part. So why ASO is important? These are pretty standard things, like nothing here is going to blow your mind. What I want you from this slide is remind this one here that Apple states that 65% of their installs come from search traffic. Just remember the 65% because we're going to come back to it in a few more slides. Now, before I keep talking about ASO and how well it's going to help your game and how well we're doing at Lab Cave, I think it's always interesting to showcase some case studies, things that we've done at Lab Cave to actually improve the results for our games and for our partner games. This is one of our partners. It's called Zombie Frontier 3. As you can guess, it's about killing zombies. It's done by Feeling Touch, FT Games. These are the screens and the icons that we had before we started working with them. There's nothing wrong with them, pretty standard, decent icon, decent screens. But after working with it for a while, and I will show you the results in the next slide, you will see how this translates into, actually in 2 more slides, you will see how this translates into more installs, better conversion rate. But here you can see, for instance, this icon versus this one. There are not many, sure, a few things change, but there is a rationale behind it. And the rationale is we were looking into why players like this game, and first and foremost, they said they like to play realistic games, so we changed the icon to make it more realistic. You see, we changed the colors here just to make it more feeling like it's a real game. or real play as it is. And then we know that they like to fight big bosses or big zombies. So instead of having random zombies, we put a big guy there to showcase, hey, you're going to be fighting big bosses at the end of every level. And we know that they like to be part of a special forces like the SWAT team, like the police forces. So we switch, guess what? The characters from the random characters on the gameplay to SWAT forces. All of these translate into results, like I will show you next slide, in terms of how many more installs we achieve thanks to that. But this translates into coming up with these iterations. Now what I'm trying to show you, I'm just trying to move about so you can see everything. What I'm trying to show you here is that from the same screens that we come up with, once we know the best iterations, just the order of the screens is going to have a direct impact on how well your game performs in terms of conversion rate. So same screens, just different order. It's number C or letter C which got the best conversion rate. So right now, just your game, if you switch the screens that you have, it's likely you can come up with a better conversion rate. Now to the results. That's what we got after doing a few iterations on Google Play. The iterations are the yellow lines. Every single time you see a yellow line is that we did an update on the App Store or Google Play page. Right here, that's when we did the first icon change, where I show you guys the icon from doing the icon about 3D going to a realistic icon. That translated to an increase of about 20% on the number of visits. That is, how many more people are actually going to visit my App Store page based on changing my icon. And then once the game got a featuring, you see this increase here, the blue line, the number of visits. This increase is because they got a featuring on Google Play. Even though they had an increase in the number of visits, we somewhat maintained the conversion rate, and then once again, we put it up again. Conversion rate is the gray line. Now, keep in mind this gray line here, because what normally happens when you get a featuring or an editor's choice, you're going to get many more visits, that is, people visiting your App Store page. But if you have not been working on your conversion rate optimization, the number of installs that you're going to get thanks to it won't be that much. And I will show you a case study or an example on what I mean with this just in 2 more slides. These are for the results from Google Play. These are the results that we got on iOS. Now the interesting difference is that here we have less yellow lines, less iterations. Why is this? It's because on Google Play we use Google Experiments, which is a free tool. Everyone here has it. You're going to log in on your Google console and then you can just use that. Whereas on iOS, first and foremost, you have to update the APK or your app every single time you want to do an A/B testing. And 2, you got to use third-party tools if you want to do the A/B testing directly on iOS. So what we do at LabCave instead is first we come up with the winning variants on Google Play, whichever are the winning permutations, the icon on the screens that perform the best are the ones that we apply afterwards on iOS. And here we got decent results after a couple of iterations. We go from about 2,000 installs to up to 5,000 installs, just again changing the icon and the screens. Now you might remember I told you guys about what happened when you have many more visits and how your conversion rate drops. That's another one of our partners, is IGG, I Got Games. We're with them for many of their titles. That's for Lords Mobile. That's what happens when you got an editor's choice. You see the massive increase on the blue line, that's the number of visits. So IGG went from, with Lords Mobile, went from having about 40, you can barely see here, but that's 50,000. So you got from about having 30,000 visits per day up to 270,000. Every single time this happens, that's an editor's choice. But if you have not been working on your conversion rate, it's going to be too late to make the most out of these many more visits that you have. Why? Because you won't get as many installs. If you have not been improving how appealing your icon is, how appealing your screen is, you won't get as many installs. So everyone here in this room is dreaming about having another choice or featuring. But if you have not been working on your conversion rate, trust me, it doesn't mean anything. It's going to be high fives in your team, but afterwards you're going to look into how many more installs you achieve thanks to that featuring, and you're going to realize it won't be that much. So really have to do your homework first on your conversion rate optimization. Now, Now that I covered and I've been reading a lot about CRO, now we're going to get into the trends that we see at LabCave for 2019/2020. The first one, you can remember a few slides before I told you guys, hey, why ASO is important. Remember that Apple states that 65% of their traffic or the installs come from search. Well, we did a study at LabCave. We analyzed 37 apps, and we actually, on Google Play, we realized that actually the opposite. Instead of coming from search traffic, most of our downloads that we analyzed were coming from Explore traffic. And guess what? From all the visits that we got from Explore, 60% became an install. So again, Apple may state that search is what accounts for most of their traffic in terms of installs. At LabCave, we analyze it, and at least on our games and the games that we analyze, it's the opposite. 60% accounts for Explore traffic. So again, you have to work on your icons, you have to work on your screens, because Explore is how the look and feel. It's not about the metadata. And then that brings me to the second point, which is the real attribution is only known by Google and iOS. If any of you guys are using the console on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, there are some bugs, some data fluctuates a lot. So that's just keeping in mind that things, you got to use that as a guidance, but ultimately it's really hard to work out what happens at the back end within Google or within Apple. Meaning, for instance, if I have an app, if a user goes on the App Store, they look for a specific keyword, puzzle. They just tap on one of the games they found, and then they see similar apps, and then they tap there, and they download that app instead. How does Google account for that? Is it accounted for search, or is it accounted for browse traffic? Well, I don't know the answer to this question, so if any of you guys know, I'm glad to know, because right now, luckily, we don't know the answer either. But that brings me to the next slide, which is, I told you guys that Explore traffic is accounting for a lot of our installs. So an easy way for you guys to figure out which apps are showing as similar apps, or apps that you might like, is using this URL here. I'm using one of our games, your bundle ID, but literally just copy and paste, or just take a screenshot of, or take a picture of these, change the purple bit here, use your bundle ID instead, and that's going to show you which similar apps are being recommended. Now, we don't have an ASO tool. Most ASO tools offer these, but if you don't have one, just use that. It's going to show you when you come up as a similar app, or you can check your competitors which app are being shown there. Obviously, if you're being shown in one of your main competitors' apps or games, and they have a lot of traffic, there's going to be traffic that could be ultimately going to your app instead. Now, since iOS 12, Apple personalizes the main tab, the Today's tab. The same happens with Google Play. I will show you another slide afterwards which showcases this point. But I encourage you guys at the office, if you have an Android device, 4 or 5 Android devices, open Google Play, look for a keyword, and see the order of the apps that show up. You will see that on each phone, they're likely to be different. So use the ranking as a reference. Don't use it. Don't get too focused on it. And then ultimately, battle benchmarks such as retention rate, quality, uninstalls, all of these is something that we're seeing as a really important trend in 2019-2020. It's no longer about being top 5, top 10. It's about showcase. All these vitals are given to you for free on Google. There's a reason for that. They want you to focus on getting your app to do better on these things. And the Apple Store and Google Play are going to account for better apps, are going to be shown higher up if you guys work on these and you have good metrics. Now, about the ranking on the store, and the example I was giving you guys about going on Google Play and using the same keyword across different devices, this is a table that put together the guys at Feature, which is an ASO agency based in Berlin. They used every single or most of the well-known ASO tools in the market, and they compare results. And you can see the results that they got across different ASO tools are different. So again, use the ranking as a reference. Don't get too focused on what I need to be top 5, I need to be top 3. Doesn't really matter. As far as your top 10, top 20, that's good enough. Work instead on your Explore traffic. Work instead on your CRO. Work instead on your retention rate, on install rate, app non-responsive. That's when we're going to make a difference moving forward. And now, That's a quite interesting point to as a lab cave. You will see things like this when you go on Google and search for correlation between user acquisition and organic traffic. Now there is nothing, that's literally I just went on Google and just searched for it. This is the first two that I found as a reference. Nothing against Branch, nothing against StoreMaven. They're great companies, but you remember this quote: for every paid install, 1.5 additional organic installs show up with about a 95% confidence interval. And StoreMaven states that they find a correlation between UA and organic of about 69, but that this correlation can fluctuate based on many factors. Well, we did another study at LabCave, and we analyzed 3 different apps. In 7 months, we applied a Pearson correlation coefficient from -1 to +1, which literally something below 0.5 is seen as a weak correlation, and the results are the following. On the first app, we found there is a true correlation between organic traffic and paid traffic. That is, indeed, the paid traffic helped to actually get more organic traffic. There's a correlation of 0.71, which is pretty strong. Whereas on the other 2 apps, correlation was really weak. The first one was 0.16, the second one was 0.32, which brings us to the following conclusion at LabCave, is that it's really hard to establish a linear correlation between your UA and your organic traffic. Now, we're not saying that that doesn't exist. What we're saying is that you have to do your own research. You have to analyze what happens with your own app. There, as StoreMaven says, there are too many factors to account for anyone to come and state, yes, there's a direct correlation between how much money you're going to spend on paid and how much more organic installs you're going to get. What you can do is analyze post-mortem, analyze afterwards if there has been an impact whatsoever. But what I showed you just now, these slides, doesn't state that next month, if I invest the same amount of UA, I'm going to get that coefficient again. No. What it states is that there was that correlation back then, last month, 2 months, 3 months ago. So again, you got to do your own research. What we propose you guys to do is just gather about 1 year of your data and account by country and by channel and just compare them. Just try to work out what has happened. But again, that won't give you a crystal ball to tell you what's going to happen in the future, because again, there are too many factors to account. It's really nice to put on your blog or put in the news that yes, there's a direct correlation about how much money you spend, how many more organics you get. The answer is you got to do your own research to work out what happens with your own app, with your own game. And then just to wrap it up, if you're lost about ASO, Enric, this is the first time I ever heard of ASO, it's super interesting, where do I begin? Take a screenshot of this. If you follow every single bullet, there's no secret sauce, there are no secret things, everything can be found on Google. Just, Google is your friend, just search for App Store optimization and follow the guides. But I can assure you, if you follow every single bullet point here, in a few months, your organic traffic is going to do way better. And with that said, thank you very much for your attention. These are my email, my contact details, and I'm going to be around today and tomorrow, so feel free to stop by and we can talk a little bit more about ASO if you're willing to do so. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So yeah, big thank you.
Right.
Just before you head off, does anyone have any burning questions that they want to ask now? If so, raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you.
What about the soft launch part?
Oh, if I just...
Run.
What about the soft launch part? Like soft launch in some other country and launching globally. What do you prefer that?
So, soft launch, what part from the soft launch?
Initial part, like releasing a game and getting feedback from the player.
What we're seeing at LabCave is pre-orders, not soft launch. Pre-orders is what actually is going to bring you a lot of good results. We actually, I think it has been released, it's going to be released soon. There is an article where we cover in depth what can be useful to you in terms of using pre-orders, but my recommendation here, if you have never used that before, definitely do. The more installs you get or more pre-orders or pre-registrations you have, the more likely it's for you afterwards to achieve more installs. That kind of answers your question?
Yeah.
Ish? We can talk later on. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah?
No, thank you very much.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.